All of the other gods, they are the works of man, but you are the most high God, and there is no one like you. All of the other gods, they are the works of man, but you are the most high God, and there is no one like you. Jehovah, you are the most high. You are the most high God.
I find it very interesting in the song lyric, and maybe it's just me, when I heard the phrase, all the other gods are man made, but this one is the right one. I think there was a quotation directly from a comedian who famously said that the Christians are non believers towards the other gods, but the people who don't believe go one God further. So you just demonstrate that quotation quite well. Thank you very much for that confirmation right there. When it comes down to, does meaning apply a mind? I would say yes. The mind that implies the meaning comes from humans.
Prince Tyler. That was succinct, straight, direct, exact. Thank you very much, Prince Tyler. There, yeah, very interesting one. Yes, meaning does imply mind, but this meaning is from the human mind. All right, that's Prince Tyler there. Looking forward to hearing you out, my soldier. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, let's throw the cables to the one and only. Need justice, need power. He's here. He's right and ready to talk to us. Need justice, need power. Good to have you on Bible Hub Talks, my soldier. How are things with you?
I'm good, brother Goberry. How are you?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. Awesome. It's grand to hear that you're doing all right.
Yeah, Tyler said what I wanted to say. Oh, sorry. Let me greet everyone. Hello, everyone. Um, so Tyler said, what what I wanted to say. I felt offended for all the other, like religions or spiritualities. The only true God is the Christian God, and I was thinking, like, man, what about Krishna or Buddha, So all the other religions are idols. Wow. Okay.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
The question whether meaning or purpose implies a mind like God strikes at the core of both philosophy, of religion, and metaphysics. Now, this debate, of course, revolves around whether the existence of meaning and purpose in the universe necessitate the existence of a divine, purposeful mind. Proponents argue that meaning and purpose inherently require an intelligent designer, while opponents claim that meaning and purpose can arise from naturalistic processes without invoking a divine being, for example. Now, this topic, therefore, engages with the classic argument for the existence of God, such as, teleological argument, and challenges posed by secular and scientific explanation of the universe. That's where we are tonight. That's really what we are talking about. Now, there's more to this. There's more that really we will be dealing with here. And we have framing questions to really help us navigate this conversation tonight so that we can get to the focal point, hopefully, on time. Question number one is, what is the meaning of meaning? Now, I know that, this could be like, confusing, or as if I am tricking someone. But I think a person like Mr. Spiewer, for example, will understand this one, because Mr. Spiewer will tell you, for example, that meaning is meaningless. There's no meaning out of meaning, which means meaning is meaningless. Therefore, the meaning of meaning is meaningless. Yeah, I know I said that. It sounds like a rhyme. It's like Eminem rhyme, but it isn't. It's just me trying to really, punctuate what Mrs. Pure really thinks of these matters. Moving forward to the second question: can objective meaning and purpose exist without a transcendent source? Can objective meaning and purpose exist without a transcendent being like God? Is there a possibility? We've heard Pastor Samuel, we've heard Kobe. They are saying that, well, it must be really God. You have to begin with God. If you're looking for meaning, you must begin with God. Is there a possibility? Is there any other option? Is God the only option on the table? Of course, God is God. He deserves to be the only option. I mean, nobody else
Yes.
can be on the table where God is. Kobe is saying yes. Okay. Can objective meaning and purpose exist without a transcendent source? That's where we are. That's the second question there. Question number three: in what ways do existentialists view views on in what ways do existentialist views on meaning and purpose challenge the necessity of a divine mind? In what ways do existentialist views on meaning and purpose challenge the necessity of a divine mind? We look at existentialist views on meaning and purpose. Now, do those views, I mean, looking at the subjective elements, for example, of existence, or the elements of being, can we say that my subjective thoughts, my subjective inclination towards, towards reality, for example, can that really be necessitated by a divine mind? Question number four: how do evolutionary theories account for the appearance of purpose in biological systems? Does evolution have something to say? Does evolutionary theories have a voice when it comes to purpose in biological systems? How do evolutionary systems explain to us, give us direction when it comes to meaning of biological systems? That's where we are tonight, ladies and gents. Thank you very much for tuning in, really. Thanks for being part of the conversation, and thanks to the conversation drivers for being here to try help us decode this mystery, the meaning of meaning. Does meaning imply a mind? Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for being part of Bible Hot Talks. I think is going to be a very interesting topic tonight. Already, what has been said is has really got me on my feet, so I can hardly wait to hear the full package. What people have to say. What is it really that we can bring to the table to make sense of this matter? Thank you very much for being here. At this point in time, I'm going to throw the cables to the one and only Prince Tyler, the Fresh Prince of Bible Hard Talks and Bel Air. Prince Tyler, cables are yours, man. Over to you.
So, to answer the very first question, what is the meaning of meaning? I'm going to use a citation that comes directly from the Pew Research Center about what do people have to say about this particular question. Now, the People's Survey was like over 19,000 different adults across 17 different countries. And now, in terms of the absolute percentage, there's like a lot of different things that people answered. For example, 38% of family and children say, like, they say that family and children are like the meeting for them. When it comes down to career and occupation, about 25% that's like a meaning for them. When it comes down to well being, 19% said it's like a meaning for them. For physical and mental health, 17%. For society and institution, 14%. For freedom and independence, 12%. Hobbies and recreation, 10%. And about education and learning, 5%, nature, the outdoors, 5%, a romantic partner, 4%, service, engagement, travel, new experiences, those are like 3% right here. And retirement is 2%. Spirituality, faith, and religion is like the lowest one so far. It's like 2%. And also, like for the case of pets, is actually 1% say that it actually gives them meaning in their particular lifestyle. And now, when it comes down to the forced choices per country, as said for Australia, they say is family, New Zealand, family, Sweden, family, France, family, Greece, family, Germany, family, Canada, family, Singapore, family. For Italy, is family and occupation. Netherlands is family, Belgium is family, Japan is family, UK is family, US is family, Spain is health, and of course, Taiwan is also society. Notes that in the data I just cited right here, it seems though that most people chose family or well being or society as the direct answer. They do not necessarily say that religion is the one thing in their first pick that gives them the most meaning out of life. And that goes into, I guess you can say, the second question right here. Can objective meaning and purpose exist without a transcendent source? Now, most of the countries in that particular data I just cited, they were traditionally Christian countries but became much more secularized over time. In the United States, according to the same data from Pew Resource, by 2070, the vast majority of people, including people like me, are going to be non religious in comparison to the Christian population. And so, people, even without religion, including people like myself, can in fact find meaning through other sources. But I think the whole entire question is kind of flawed because it seems to suggest that meaning is basically universal all across the globe when you use the word objective. But I don't think, based upon these answers that I just cited right now, that everybody has the exact same sort of meaning in their life, and therefore it cannot be one single source for all the meaning that they actually have, because everybody have a different kind of meaning in their personal lifestyle. The third question is, what do existentialist views of meaning and purpose challenge the necessary of a divine mind? Now, to my understanding, this idea that you get your own personal meaning goes all the way back to ancient Greece. Particularly the guy who made up this idea, I think it was actually Aristotle, if I'm not mistaken, that came up with the idea of that particular case. I think it's not necessarily true. Like, even if it was a case like there was actually a creator or whatnot, and there's actually evidence of that, I think people will still find meaning even with or without one. And so I don't think that's not necessarily the case that it actually challenges those ideas. I guess what really challenges the ideas is when people make that positive claim that something exists outside of space and time that kind of, does not make any sort of sense to me, because it sounds like a contradiction to me. Like, how can something exist in time and how can something exist outside of time? It never makes any sort of sense when I started thinking about it when I was around 17 years old. The final question is, do evolution theories account for the appearance of purpose in biological systems? I am not a scientist. Unlike most people in the space I just heard just right now, who made these claims about evolution with no, evidence behind those claims because they're not scientists, I am not going to make any sort of scientific claim right here. For a scientific claim to be substantiated, I think the most equipped person would be a scientist. And since Dr. Robert is in this space, I will let him answer that particular question because he's a scientist. That's my answer.
The Prince Tyler. Alrighty, Prince Tyler. All right, Prince Tyler, thank you very much for that. Thanks, Prince Tyler. Thanks for that grand opening there. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, you are saying that of course, you brought that stairs there. What we exactly expected from you, because it can't be Prince Tyler without stairs. So thank you very much for that. And according to your stats, then, your stats reveal that religion, when it comes to the meaning of life, religion was the least, was right on the bottom there. No one really saw religion as a source of or meaning, or gave them that value when it comes to meaning. So it's the list according to your stance. And then you listed countries there, and which I think we can safely say, um, globally, with quotation marks there, globally, family has been discovered to be the most item that is meaningful, or that is giving profound value to people. People are identifying family as the source of meaning, that they find meaning. And of course, some they're looking at well-being, but really you are pointing, according to that stat, really highlighting that family is what people are perceiving as that thing that is meaningful to them, as opposed to religion, for example, or the force behind religion. Very interesting. Um, and of course, your mind stretches forward to the second question there. And when you're looking at the second question, you are saying that, well, the issue here is that, when we look at purpose, we look at meaning, from a transcendent source, is that we assume that everybody has the same kind of definition. It's like we're using a blanket approach in dealing with this, as if everyone, it's meaning, or the definition of meaning is universal. Everyone will just take it at face value and say this is what it means. Yet it is different for every individual in different places. So we really can't do that. And which, according to you, the question is flawed. Then, question number three, in your attempt to still wrestle with these matters, you are saying that when we are dealing with ways, of existential views on meaning and purpose, and divine mind, you're saying that, well, um, actually looking at a divine mind, talking of a divine mind in this matter, when we're dealing with meaning, it doesn't really make sense. How can something exist in time and out of time at the same time? Just like a point of contradiction, really. It can't really somehow give us anything that is substantial, interesting. And then the last question, you are relegating that one to Dr. Robert. You're saying he is here. Dr. Robert is a scientist. You're not a scientist, so he will have to answer that one. Thank you very much, Prince Tyler. There, thanks for that. Very interesting, Prince Tyler. Prince Tyler, I think you did a beautiful job here in looking at this matter holistically, objectively, not just from one particular country, but trying to really look at read wide into it, and trying to get responses, or at least views, perceptions from different corners of the earth. As very interesting. In looking at this matter, for example, let's say, it seems like, while I was listening to you, it seems like you don't have um objective view when it comes to meaning. I didn't see much of it, or I might have missed it. So I'm interested in trying to find out. So you think meaning is only subjective? I only create my own meaning. There is no meaning that is a superior meaning that governs the subjective meanings that everyone else is working towards. Like, is I only have my own meaning subjectively, and I define my own meaning. So it's not there's nothing as objective meaning in whatsoever way.
Yeah, that would be my stance because, again, like I said before, the data, and of course, not just the data, but you can see it from your personal eyes. You know that somebody else is going to have a different meaning for their life than somebody else, just from pure observation. For example, I know for a fact that my meaning in life, the one that I created, is to, of course, try to educate people as much as possible, maybe through my YouTube videos, maybe through conversations like these. And I think another aspect of meaning is I want to actually, of course, belong together with my family, my friends, and my family and my friends also bring that meaning. It makes everything, in life precious, and you want to value every single last second. I think there was actually a famous phrase that was said like a long time ago. I cannot remember who actually said it. I think that phrase was like, you only live once. And so when you have the mindset that if you only live once, it makes every single last moment precious. It's almost like every single day, it's almost your last day. And so you give that particular meaning every single day with your family, with your friends, at least for my particular case, by, spending time with them, enjoying your time with them, bonding with them, communicating with them, that kind of stuff. But I also recognize that there are other people that want to do their career as their own personal meaning. I know that other people have pets as their personal meaning. And so, although I have my own personal definition about what is my meaning in life, it does not mean that everybody else in this particular room will have the exact same view of what their meaning in life is.
Prince Tyler. Thank you very much, Prince Tyler. Thank you very much for that. Prince Tyler, just one more last one. I see Mr. VOKO wants to interact with you. If we look at this subject of meaning, we look at it from the point of truth. I know it sounds like I'm digressing, but I'm not. From the point of truth. So truth, in at least in philosophical frameworks, right? They look at truth as necessary truth and subjective truth or contingent truth. Now, if you look at it like that, the subjective truth or contingent truth is that, for example, if that truth is not maintained, like if I lie, for example, because then I have contingent truth. My truth is dependent on me speaking it. Is not necessary. There are consequences in the long run, but they are not like kind of hectic consequences. I mean, we lie every day, and sometimes there are consequences to it, but we get away with it oftentimes, right? Because it's subjective truth, right? It's contingent, it's dependent on me. And then there is the truth where philosophers they refer to as necessary truth, whereby it's necessary, it's imperative for us. For my truth to make sense, it must somehow be governed by this superior truth. Now, let's look at meaning. Don't you think that meaning somehow would need truth for it to make sense? That it's not just the doing, it's not just me doing something, waking up in the morning and doing something that I like, that would determine meaning. I mean, think about it. There are some people that say, for example, are pedophiles. They What would give meaning to them is something that is really according to moral frameworks. We frown at those things, but it gives them meaning. They think this is meaning. So doesn't therefore meaning require an element of truth, an element of moral framework around it for it to be meaningful in such a way that it is meaningful?
But Brother Gobe, I need to jump in there quickly. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you said something very pertinent, and I just want to say something, right? So I want to hear what you think. You touched on pedophilia and highly controversial. Do you think that do people that have pedophilia, are they hardwired, or they are making a conscious decision to be with younger people in a sexual way? Are they hardwired as much as we are hardwired to? Okay, I'm not going to assume that we're hardwired, you and I. Pedophiles, are they hardwired to a certain sexual proclivity, which is different from, I don't want to say the normal person, but okay, what are you saying? Because I think you just,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
okay, sure.
you breezed over that and it was very unclear.
All right, all right. Thanks for that. I think human beings, from a biblical stance, right, or biblical framework, we are hardwired, to lean towards the good, and at the same time hardwired to lean towards the bad. Now, these are sets, right, in an objective manner. So it's not like specific that I'm talking. I would say I'm hardwired for pedophilia, for example, but it's like I'm hardwired towards the thing that is immoral because of the fall of man. So we are hardwired towards uh, pitfalls, moral wise, not just one item or that item, but objectively, a lot of items. There are a lot of things that we can fall into based on that hardwiredness from the fall. And then, of course, we are hardwired for the good because that was God's intention that we do what is good and pleasing to Him. So that I think hardwiredness then would be applicable in that framework.
Okay, one last thought, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, 100%. One last thought. So, if there's hard wiring that is going on, and you as an individual, you have no say over the hard wiring, you were just being, for lack of a better word or phrase, you're being put into the system, and then you come around, and then you find yourself in this world. You're hardwired like that, you know, and you, God, by definition, you knew that already 50, 100, 1,000 years ago. Like, why is this a thing? Like, why are you blaming me for it? Because you knew that and you let it happen. Oh, that's basically what I'm saying. So, but anyways, I digress. Let's continue with the discussion, and then I'm gonna keep quiet.
I have something to say regarding this, just specifically based on, I guess, the pedophilia example. In America, we have a lot of ongoing, I guess, movements, you could say, in certain states where it is becoming more and more socially accepted to be a fucking pedophile. They're starting to change the name of pedophile to, what is it? Young, I can't remember the
It's
specific terminology
it's
they
called
use.
maps.
Yeah, so I'm in the middle. Anyways, this is contagion, okay, and obviously it's not right. If you're loving children sexually in a sexual manner, that is not right, okay, in any eye, I swear to God, in any eye. And the fact of the matter is, the more and more this type of stuff, pedophilia, drug use, you know, there's so many different negatives that people get into, these pitfalls Goldberry was talking about, and people, I believe, are righteous in their hardwiring, but throughout that hardwiring, these pitfalls they give into based on the lack of knowledge or understanding they have regarding that topic. Okay, so people get addicted to drugs based on the fact they believe it is giving them meaning in life and that these drugs give them purpose and define who they are. We all know this to be a fault, and we all know this to be false. Okay, so when we're talking about the truth and the falsitivities about meaning, I think that there really is a lot to be said about what is false and what cannot give you meaning in this life, because it'll simply destroy you from the inside out. But there are, like Prince Tyler said, I believe, other means of achieving purpose as long as you're doing it within God's guidance and within the light and the good of the nature of your meaning. Okay, so just because someone doesn't believe in specifically Jesus, but rather maybe Muhammad or, Allah, I don't believe that they are inherently evil. I don't believe that they're hardwired to do bad, although they're following different precepts that Christians don't necessarily follow. I think that there are some pitfalls within those as well, and every different sector of society has pitfalls, and it's our own individual minds that keep us away from those as long as we're staying in within the light. That's all.
All right, Tim. Thank you very much. Broken netting there. Thank you very much, Colby. Thank you.
I'm sorry
Thank
to to come across as a pottery pooper, but I wanted to answer your questions.
you. Yeah, I know. Yeah, sure. Over to you, Prince Tyler.
Yeah. Okay, so the question you basically asked me earlier before everybody decided to jump in for that brief moment was like, what is truth, right? And so I think the way I would actually describe truth, there's like two types of truth, right? There's like, the scientific truth, something that's testable, repeatable, etc., through observation and experimentation. That's like, I would say, objective truth right there. The second type of truth that I see is something that is more philosophical truth. For example, you can find truth directly from a painting, you can find truth directly from a book, or like a famous philosopher like, Aristotle's or Socrates, for example. And so you can find truth without necessarily having to resort directly towards science. And so it's entirely possible for somebody to be well rounded and consider not just a scientific truth or the objective reality that we live in, but also the sort of philosophical truth that we're talking about. Because one thing that I have noted, because I'm a fan of movies, by the way, have a whole collection of movies, like, from different genres. And one thing that I can see directly from observation when I go to the movie theater is that humans, they tend to be hardwired to enjoy a good story. They like that kind of stuff. And so you can learn moral lessons directly from stories, and you can see people going to the movie theater to see that kind of moral lessons in front of their eyes. The most recent movie that came out, and I saw it myself last week at the theater, was Deadpool and Wolverine. And I'm pretty sure that although it might be rude and vulgar and in your face, you can still find that kind of truth somewhat directly from that story. So, story, you can get meaning directly from stories. You can get meaning, that kind of truth, from, like, books or, like, philosophy. So, I categorize two types of truth: philosophical truth, as well as, like, objective truth, the scientific method.
Okay, Prince Tyler. Thank you very much. Thanks for your response there. I think Mr. VOKO wants to interact with you. Mr. VOKO?
Um, thanks very much, host. And before I ask my question, let me just remind everyone in the house that to if you want to interact with the speaker, please raise your hand, and then the host will give you a chance to interact with the speaker at the appointed time, so to speak, just in order that we may keep the order of the space. I know that some of us are new on the space. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity, host. Uh, there's a lot of places where I can go, but I guess I'll start with meaninglessness, Prince Tyler. Uh, you mentioned the different types of sources of meaning in people's lives, but I want to gauge your view on when there's a lack of meaning. Um, do you well, what is your view on meaninglessness as it pertains to, let's say, maybe its healthiness for one's life, or its consequences on one's life, and what's your view of that?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that I guess many people, they just suffer from like a lack of meaning, because basically one aspect that tends to happen is that they lose their loved ones, right? That will mean that they're at this particular low point in their particular life where they say, you know what, screw everything. I don't think I have any sort of meaning. And so, because of, like, this sort of sense of depression that they face, they become a much more nihilistic. And I guess one way to get people from their bootstraps, like, they typically go to these sort of counseling centers and, of course, drug abuse centers to, get their life together. And also, another thing for people use to heal is, go to their family, go to their friends, and they typically, ask them, hey, can you actually be my coach during my low point in my life? That way, of course, I can get my life together. Now, how people begin to get their life together is, like, a lot of different reasons. One reason is, like, their mindset. I am not going to lose. I will continue to not, of course, get the drugs consume me. I'm not going to, of course, make the death of somebody that I love consume me. I will continue on because I know there's more things in this life than to just to focus on that one thing. That's like one aspect. Of course, other people they tend to go to religion. That's like another aspect right there. So a lot of aspects that people do when they're in that slumber, basically they require like a lot of different things before their life actually get back together again.
Thanks, Prince Tyler. Just so I'm just gonna ask you in summation just to see whether I understood you correctly. So, is it your view that number one, meaning is essential to live is it essential for people to live with meaning, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's essential for people to find their meaning. Definitely. Like again, like I said before, even when you're at your lowest point in life, you need to find someone you can trust with to give your like secrets and to communicate with people. Because one thing that I have noticed through observation is that we love to communicate with people when we don't necessarily talk our issue out. Our depression actually increase if we don't necessarily do anything about that. And so you need to talk to people and have friends and family at your side to give you that meaning again.
Thanks, Prince Tyler. I know the questions are basic, but I think it's probably best that we establish maybe a foundation from which we can proceed. But anyway, since if given that meaning is essential to life, or to having a life of quality, if I may put it like that, would you what would you, or let me say, is it important that that the meaning that one ascribes, or the meaning that one attaches their life to, that it's something that's enduring rather than fleeting? I just want to get your gauge on how you, let's say, the quality of what one finds meaning in. Is there an importance placed on how enduring the source of meaning is, in from your perspective?
Yes, I would say, like, again, finding joy is definitely key. For example, if you find joy being with your family, you should concentrate more on your family. If you find joy from painting a painting, you should continue painting the painting. If you find joy writing or helping out in charities, you should continue to do what you do. And so, whatever makes you happy, as long as you're not necessarily hurting people, then I would say joy is essential for anybody to, of course, continue on to this life.
Okay, that's awesome. Let's joy, or happiness as a source of meaning. Let's go for that. So what about times in which there's no joy, or times in which uh, nothing gives joy or happiness? So let's say if your source of meaning is your family, times in which you you fight with your family and it's irreconcilable, or god forbid you lose your family. um I'm asking from the perspective of that as a source of meaning. Is that a secure, for lack of a better term, source of meaning, or enduring, or yeah, is that maybe your perspective on and not even for not just family, but things that are able to be taken away or to that are momentary in the world. If someone doesn't have that, um, what would you recommend, or what is your view on some of the things that may be fleeting? If you agree, of course, that some of these things are fleeting in nature.
Okay, so first and foremost, when it comes down to, of course, family, I'm not going to assume that for every single case, like for every person, the family is always good. That's not always the case. That's not always the case. There are some families that are, good. Like, for example, my family is not, of course, guilty of abusing other people. And so some people have the absolute fortunate, based upon their circumstance, to have good family members that don't cause harm. And then there are other kind of family members who are very much abusive towards their offsprings. And so that cannot necessarily give a person joy to be in that kind of toxic environment. And so sometimes it just messes a person up psychologically that they cannot necessarily function. And so I think in that particular scenario, I would say you need to get help directly from, I guess your neighbors, your friends at schools, somewhere like an adult figure that you can actually trust to make sure that your life is back together again.
Okay, thanks, Prince Tyler. As I wrap up, host, I think I just have two more questions left, and the first would be that um, if assuming that okay, we've established that meaning is important to one's life, and then that there's a hierarchy of things that give meaning, lasting meaning, or meaning that is impactful to life. Um, would you say that it is therefore necessary, for lack of a better term, that we aim for the highest source of meaning that is enduring and that is not subject to fleeting things in life in general?
Okay, I'm not gonna force people, to live the same sort of lifestyle like me because I ultimately believe that people should have, their own personal decisions. But I guess as a means of principle, again, not force, but as principle, we ought to maybe
Yeah,
find that
as
meaning.
objective as possible.
Yes.
Sorry, you can go on.
No, no, no. I already answered it. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I think let me park it from there, because the reason why I was asking the question is, I think Prince Tyler, from his perspective, definitely sees a value, um, dare I say, a necessity for there to be meaning in one's life. And so from there, I guess the question then becomes of the order of meanings, for lack of a better term. How important is that as a philosophy, or as something to aim for in terms of the importance of meaning in one's life? How important is it to have a source of meaning that is not subject to things that are fleeting in life? I hope that somehow we were able to move the needle on this, but I know that as we continue with the space, we'll be able to figure this out more. But thanks for the opportunity to interact, host. Over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Prince Tyler. Thank you, Mr. VOKO. Thanks for those questions. Prince Tyler, I have Mr. Golden Buzzer there. Mr. Golden Buzzer, he's there on the queue. But he dropped his question nonetheless. So I'm gonna shoot out the question. I'm gonna shoot out the question there. So here comes the question. What if someone finds meaning in killing people? Should their pursuit, should their pursuit of happiness, like the guy who loves painting, for example, is that the same? If not, what is wrong? If meaning is about what you find, so if not, what's wrong? If meaning is about what you find joy in. Did you get that, Prince Tan? What if someone finds? I think somehow Mr. Golden Father clone somehow my thinking there, my thoughts. But yeah.
Um, I want to emphasize that earlier I said as long as somebody doesn't hurt somebody, then it's perfectly fine to make your meaning. Now, there's something basically in philosophy. I think it's also like in these sort of circles for political aspects. There's something that is known as the non-violent principle. That is to say that if you were to cause violence, then it's not necessarily okay. But if it's something that doesn't necessarily cause violence, that's okay. That's the idea of the non-violent principles. And so in the political arena, for example, it's about the maximization of freedom without, of course, the state actually trying to oppress the people. And so I guess for this particular conversation, we can use this sort of same logic as the nonviolent principle. For example, like if somebody say that their meaning is to basically kill people, then we can basically reject that for many reasons. The first reason is the direct impact of a person. You cannot possibly imagine, of course, like someone's frustration, like, their family, their friends, their loved ones. We can go into their shoes through empathy and say, you know what? Would you like it if somebody else do the exact same thing towards me? That's like, one aspect. The other aspect is, of course, like, circumstantial. Like, did that person kill out of self defense, or did that person kill because he just wanted to kill? That's like another aspect that we basically had to consider. And so another aspect is, of course, like I said before, the impact of that person. Like, how did that person impact the other people around them? So we use these sort of things to consider, like, what exactly is okay or not okay, based upon like a lot of factors. And so I don't necessarily approve that because someone kills someone, that's like a meaning in life. I reject that notion.
Right, Prince Tyler. Mr. Golden Buzzer, he's here right now. He's on the decks, so he will ask the question and make a follow up towards that question. Mr. Golden Buzzer, good to have you.
Sorry,
Very
sorry,
heartfelt.
hold just one quick one, 1 second. So Prince Tyler, since you reject the notion of that as a source of meaning, does that mean that there's an objective source of meaning to which you pull to reject that as a source of meaning?
Like I stated before, like everybody have their own separate, like I said before with the Pew Research Center, as I cited, most people cited family as their meaning. Most people cited well being for meaning. Most people cited health as like one of their meanings. And so I cannot say that there's a objective stance. I rejected the stance about the murder aspect because I consider like a lot of things from my perspective to say that is actually wrong. So again, people have, according to the data, used different means to say this is actually my personal meaning in life, and that's what gives them that particular meaning every day. And so it's hard to say is a 100% objective based upon that particular study I cited earlier from my submission.
Okay, but if you reject it, then what does that mean for someone who finds meaning in that? Does it mean that you, from your rejection of it, you would expect that person to change their source of meaning? Or are you saying that you reject it, but do you?
I mean, yes. I mean, if they say that killing is their meaning, I would reject it because it will cause damage and harm towards other people.
Uh, I can't get. Hello?
Yeah, I think he's done, Mr. Golden Buzzer. Please continue, sir.
Sorry, was ngena ngethi hello mas. Um, ungani order,
But
composure.
first, Maso, no matter how much you're running.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Co-host gives me, oh, it's my bullet there. That's what I'm talking about. You saw
Bouncer
that, right?
Guys,
gives meaning to love. He gives meaning to love.
I'm telling you, that's how it
order.
should be. That's how it should be.
Anyway, you see, Keto, you're asking a right question because where morality and meaning is subjective, everyone defines their own meaning. What moral authority gives Prince Tyler to judge this person who finds meaning? And I'm saying this because I watched some podcasts as well where criminals maybe were are talking about their journey. Where there's a guy who's going doing the rounds on TikTok who says, "Our journey long." His name is Sylvester. He says to them during the peak of their criminality, violence was an art. It wasn't about hoping anymore. It was about the violence. It's about the thrill. The shooting at cops, the cops chasing them, escaping prison. They really found meaning in that. Of course, later on, he surrendered the type of life. So, Tyler, as a faithful agnostic, what moral authority do you have to judge the other person who finds meaning? Where morality is subjective, one, but two, you cite conditions. If it's self-defense, it's justifiable. If it's what. Let's say this person finds meaning in killing maybe orphaned children. There's not going to be any impact there. Maybe the child's parents are dead, and this person just puts a misery and the misery of this child. No one is going to cry. No one knows. Is that fine? How far do you take this? It depends. But also, my first question is very, very important as a faithful agnostic, which is what gives you the moral authority to judge a person who finds meaning in killing people if morality and meaning is subjective? Each person defines their own meaning. Thanks.
Okay, first and foremost, I don't want to consider myself an authority figure whatsoever. I wish people could see me less than authority, right? Like, I want to be as humble as possible, and so I will not see myself as any type of authoritative figure because I would want people to question me. So I removed that title of authoritative figure right now. Anyway, to to answer your questions right here. I would say most people are innately born directly from reason, right? That means that through argumentation, you can actually reason with somebody. Okay, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe this is not a good idea. So, through reason alone, you can convince somebody, hey, perhaps you might want to change your life in the right direction, right? And so, for many cases, I would say that because people use reason, that's why they convinced the person that wanted to murder to not necessarily go out and murder. They will, of course, appeal to meta ethics and say, you see, what if this happens towards you and your family? Would you actually like it if that happens towards you? And they will probably say no. So, I would say to answer that particular question, people are born with reason. Adults are basically reasonable. Then you can use reason to prevent that person to commit that crime, to say that's not actually a good way to lead your life.
I think when I bounce, what's missing is for Christian to believe that, to admit that he believes in in morality not being subjective. That's what he's leading to, but he's not there yet. He doesn't want to jump in, fully and without go under the water. But it's fine.
All righty. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for that. Thanks, Prince Tyler. Thanks, Mr. Cole.
You know, Brother Goberry, at some point in the Bible, you could marry your sister or your brother. That later changed. Um, you could slaughter an animal, as a sacrifice for your sins. That later changed as well. So things change, meanings as well. They change. Um, our understanding of things change, because life is progressive. Life is progressive. I recall, when I was into like philosophy and all that stuff. Uh, in linguistics, this change of meanings, they call it the diachrony. Right? Diachrony is how the meanings of words change over time. Even if you look at like the timeline of worship in the church, it is almost impossible that the way Christians worship today is the way Christians, worshipped at the inception of Christianity. I think the best you can do is try to get close, but since no one was there, it's almost like a guessing game. Um, so Christianity, like everything else, it has nuances. It has nuances. Things are being changed, the religion evolves, and these changes that often happen in religion, they become a point of contention. Which is probably why we'll always hear Bible hard talks. Religion often clashes with philosophy and and science. So. But you can get meaning from wherever you want, and I think Tyler said this earlier. You can get meaning from wherever you want. And I think even some of the guys, they touched on it. To me, I think it's are you a benefit to the community, to the society? Are you dangerous? Or are you a credit to society? Because hey, these things of religion, they cause a rift. They cause a rift between between people. Like I and Lunga are essentially mortal enemies here, but here we were laughing. Just because I spoke about Tim and Take a lot, we're laughing. But next week, he'll have his sword, I'll have my sword. We'll be cutting each other. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like religion. You don't actually get to know someone, because when he comes, he brings a religion. When I come, I bring, So you never really get to know someone. You just know them through the lens of, religion. Um, so for me, I would say we should just maybe judge things on, like, yeah, you guys were talking about things like pedophilia and and whatnot. Yeah, I don't think that will ever fly, eh? I don't think that I don't think that will ever fly. Because I think that just does damage. I don't know if it has any redeeming qualities. I personally don't see any redeeming qualities in something like pedophilia. But our society is so strange, man. It's so strange. Um, we'll condemn things like pedophilia, but we'll legalize things like prostitution. It's weird. It's like we can never just deal with everything all at once. It's like um, we're kind of slow, when it comes to certain things. But I don't know. Maybe prostitution is I don't know, one of those things that the powers that be benefit, because they're the ones who allow things and don't allow things. So yeah, Brother Goldberry. In summary, to me, when people want to find meaning, Meaning is essentially it's like an attempt at defining something, right? You're trying to define something, or I can even say you're trying to refine something. You're trying to give it a shape or a form that you can work with. Something that you can understand. And naturally, this is going to differ from person to person. Um, yeah, meanings are going to clash. It's inevitable. We can't stop it, because we all come from different backgrounds and experiences. So it can't be that we think the same. So it's going to happen.
Thank you very much, Nico Power. Thank you very much. Thanks for being part of Bible Hot Talks, man, and thanks for speaking your mind with us, sharing your mind with us. Yeah, very interesting take there. Looking at these matters, you're saying that life is progressive. Generally, life is progressive. Therefore, that makes it it has influence on the meaning of meaning. The meaning will change because life is progressive. You made an example of linguistics and other disciplines, for example, that in linguistics, you look at, I think, what you called diachrony there, look at how words change meaning over time. So you're saying that yeah, it changes. You went to worship, looking at the order of worship and liturgies in the church, that they change. They change over time. The way they were worshiping in the first century, for example, first century Christians and 21st century Christians, it's different. Why? Because life is progressive. So things changes, therefore meaning changes. Very interesting there. So you are saying to us here, Ni, that you get meaning from wherever you want to get meaning. Very interesting. I think that kind of like connects with what Prince Stella was saying. But then you are saying that you know um, meaning has to do with the question: are you beneficial to the society? And that beneficialness, if someone is beneficial to the society, is really, you are saying that let's judge that according to things with redeeming qualities. I thought that was actually quite something there. Then you touched on some of the things that behaviors that we see. For example, Peter Failure is saying that, well, if we look at search, for example, you don't think it's going to fly. It's not something that is going to gain popularity. Why? Because it doesn't have the redeeming qualities. But then you are saying that it's like a paradox because on the one hand, we are frowning at Peter Failure, but at the same time, we're saying we're okaying prostitution. And you find yourself that you find that quite disturbing because it's like in a way contradictory, right? And then you are saying that when we look at again a meaning really in your summary, meaning is attempting to define, refine something that we work with. But then these things again they clash because we are different people, different way of thinking, different backgrounds, and then we are trying to apply this thing that we are attempting to define, refine, so that we can work with, and then they clash. Well, we clash with each other because of the differences. Very interesting. It seems like to me, Nihi, from this, are you, because I think the main question tonight is really, with implying a mind is the objective mind or an objective thought, at least. If I'm attempting to define, refine something so that I can work with, and these things for them to qualify to be, you know, in the social space in societies, you're saying that these things must have redeeming qualities. um redeeming qualities, somehow it points towards something bigger, a mind that is bigger than just someone defining, refining something to work with there. Am I reading into it, Nihi? I see Mr. Spear is laughing there. I suppose he's thinking I'm reading into things here. But let me hear you, Nihi. Let's leave Mr. Spear outside of this. This is just you and I having a convo here. Let's leave him. Am I reading into things here, Nihi?
When you say what, Brother Gover?
Yeah, when I say that, when you are using the term there, redeeming qualities, and you're saying when you in your summary, you're saying that when we look at meaning, it's just one attempting to define, refine something in order to work with, and then they clash. So I'm saying that are you pointing towards an objective mind here, or an objective line of thinking, more especially when you look at that term that I like there, redeeming qualities.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I've always had a problem with this thing of objective and subjective, right? Because when someone says maybe making an objective decision, they mean I I separate myself, or my personal desires are separate from this decision. How do you do that? How does someone actually do that? Because whenever we come into something, we always come with our own opinion. So to me, the objective subjective argument, unless someone can enlighten me, I never quite understood it, because whatever I do, it comes from a personal place. I can't separate myself from my understanding of a particular situation. Like if I condemn pedophilia or I promote it, it's me personally. So I don't understand what they mean by objective, because according to me, it's all subjective. Our feelings and our emotions go into our understanding, how we see the world and everything. So yeah, on redeeming qualities, Brother Gober, like I said, I think religion divides people. To me, so long as you're not dangerous, you're okay. You're okay. I don't really mind if you bow to Christ or bow to Krishna. So long as I know that, I can sleep at night and you won't break into my house and, kill me in my sleep. Now I'm okay. You see, but religion, it's a good like social exercise, just to we're working through issues. So the religious discussions are good. They're like social discussions. Religion and society is the same thing. So that they're good. They're good. But for me, like I don't think Lunga is dangerous, for example. I might not agree with what he says, but I don't think even you guys, you Christians, I don't think you're particularly dangerous, although I don't know you, but I don't think you're dangerous, right? I wouldn't be afraid to sleep in one house with you, but yeah, some things we'll never agree. We'll never agree, probably. So to me, that's what I would say. It's not a train smash. Like religious differences. I don't think those ones. Well, it depends. When you go to Islam, it gets a bit radical.
No, when you ask those questions, one feels inclined to jump in as well, because I was feeling like I wanted to ask the question to Emeritus Lunga, the person who was asking the question. Yeah, but
Yeah, we can begin. We can begin there. We can begin there.
yeah, but I'm just saying that when you're asking the question, it does show that you hold a certain position. So therefore, these questions come from somewhere. Therefore, we are inclined to ask questions on them. So when you ask the question of will the sun still have a meaning even after you remove all the life the life forms that are existing on Earth? I was inclined to ask the question: do you think the sun holds the same meaning that you ascribe to the sun, even if that meaning would be universal as per us being humans? Maybe we have a consensus in that meaning to say, okay, the sun's meaning is this. Do you think the sun holds the same meaning that you hold for it? Yeah, that's the question. It's interesting because this question of meaning actually is very interesting because it's one of those things that we think that human beings are superior to other things that are in nature, including animals and other organisms, or just nature in general. So we like to distinguish ourselves to say because we have a sense of meaning or purpose, Therefore, we are a superior species, or we are superior, whatever. Yeah, I did look into like different meanings of what we call meaning, and I came up with this the condition that distinguishes animal from plant and from inorganic matter and all of that. There's also another one that says the existence of an individual human being or animal. Um, yeah, but maybe let me start from the fact that I think there is no meaning at all, and maybe link that to what I've been hearing, the meaning to live. Whether somebody whether somebody can live without a meaning. Um, Try to think of a meaning, whatever you define it as, and just try to link it with things like oxygen, breathing, um, pumping of blood. Does it holds the same value? This thing we call meaning, and already in the space we have spoken about the fact that there is a point where somebody loses meaning and they have to find it again, but they are still living, uh, whatever the circumstances. It might be because you lost somebody or whatever the reason is. And we spoke about the fact that that certain individual, they still have a chance to go through that process and regain this thing we call meaning. Voila, their life has meaning again. But they're still breathing, they're still living. So does it really mean something when we say you can't live without meaning? It doesn't. It's just a story that we keep on telling ourselves about this. It's interesting, these stories that we tell ourselves. So there is this big one which is meaning, and we link it to um, a lot of different things that for instance, I think there have been this notion that without God there is no meaning, and I want to say without man there is no God. We have defined him, we have made him, and we continue to maintain his existence. And yeah, and through this meaning, purpose that we are speaking about, it gives each other. It's giving to each other. So it's man and God. It's very interesting. But I've been observing as well that when we speak from the conditioned perspective, the conditioned perspective, conditioned meaning through the environment that you grew up on, whatever teachings that you received, through all of those, they have made you what you are, and you are arguing from that point. Whether you are asking questions or answering questions, it's from that point. And I think in these spaces, a while ago, somebody made mention that, like, if you were born in maybe one of the Middle East countries where most of the population is Muslim, then you would be arguing for Muslim all night, every day, arguing for them. And so that's the same with meaning as well. It's just so I have listened to the space, and I think as we are speaking, there is clearly defined lines where people are speaking about meaning as something that is relative, and there are people speaking about it as objective. And I just want to say that, as my last point, that there is no meaning, meaning um, uh, actually a person can live without it, and the person is living without it already. Um, and I think the perspective of relativity is on the same line as because when we say that it's something that you create, um, and you continuously redefine it as you grow, and whatever mechanisms of conditions that you put yourself into or you find yourself into, as they continuously condition you, that is where that thing is being redefined, which you call a purpose or meaning. So from that perspective, clearly you are living without this thing, but you choose to continuously redefine it, and it's your thoughts or your beliefs that you have a purpose that keeps that thing in place. So you remove a belief or a thought that you have a purpose, voila, you don't have a purpose. You haven't had that thing all along. You're just living, just as breathing. Yeah, let me end it there. Thank you for listening to me rambling here. We can go back to your settings, guys, and speak about relativity and objectivity. Yeah, but there was also another point. Somebody spoke about, I think there was interaction between Tyler and Koketo. They were speaking about the um, mm, I think Koketo was alluding to the fact that there is a superior meaning to all of the finite meaning that there are. Whatever, maybe the examples that Tyler made of family, um, and all others, there could be something that is greater. And I was thinking that one of the things that I've heard on this spaces is that God has given you the free will. Um, and with that free will, you are free to believe in Him, or not believe in Him and believe in something else. And because of that wonderful thing, it is possible that you can have Him as your meaning to life, and also change. And we do have a lot of examples of people who cross over, who have been maybe believing in God all their life, and making God their meaning to life, and after some time they change to something else, to find a different meaning. So the God being a meaning to somebody, it does happen that it's also finite as well, uh, through those examples. Yeah, thank you.
All right, Mr. Spielman, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Spielman. Yeah, I think you did justice here. Thank you very much for that. Thanks for your thoughts. Thanks for sharing your mind with us tonight. Yeah, very interesting indeed. You've said quite a lot here. You've said quite a lot. And you are saying you think there's no meaning at all. Of course. Um, from whom could this statement, proceed from if it's not Mr. Spear? I think there's no meaning at all. You say them. Yeah, and then of course I wonder what is the meaning of that statement. I think there's no meaning at all. And then you went on to say that sometimes you lose meaning and find it, but you are still living. I think you are making a point there that if, for example, we are saying that um, we you cannot leave. I think it was the point that was said that you cannot leave without meaning. And then you're saying that, well, sometimes from what has been discussed here on the space, you do lose meaning and find it, but you're still living, you're still breathing. So how can we say that you cannot live without meaning? You went on to say that, for example, if we say, something, or does it mean that something, when you say you can't live, does it mean that you can't live? If we say that, you can't live without meaning, does it really necessarily mean that you can't live without meaning? And then you are saying that, well, it's just like, this is just like, any other story. It's a story. It's the same as the story or the claim that, there is no meaning without God, which you are saying that you are adding on top of that to augment that statement. You're saying that, well, without man there is no God, because it is man that really, created and maintained the meaning of God. So basically, according to you, it's just a story. And you are saying that, we speak from our conditioned perspectives when we look at this matter. We have different worldviews, and these worldviews, they somehow decide for us what exactly we're going to say. So, or how are we going to condition our claims? If, for example, we were born from the Middle East, at this point in time, we wouldn't be here arguing, for God, the Christian God, but we would be arguing from an Islam point of view, the worldview that we will be holding because of where we are coming from. Very interesting. And then you went on to say that, your thoughts, your beliefs, that you have a purpose, just makes you feel, what make you or feel like you have meaning. But actually, when you remove these thoughts and your belief that you have meaning, you use the French word there, voila, you find that you don't have meaning actually, which basically means it goes back to the point that you've made earlier on, that, all these things is just a story. All these things is just a story, according to Mr. Spear. Yeah, very interesting indeed. Mr. Spear, thank you very much for sharing your mind with us. Very funny indeed, and somehow deep. And yeah, I think I'm gonna give a chance to Mr. B. Okay, or yeah, he wants to interact with you. So I'm gonna throw some cables to him, and let's hear your interaction, gentlemen.
Thanks, host, and thanks, Mr. Spewy, for the very succinct and clear um, perspective that you contributed. That was very fascinating to hear. And host, this is why I said in my introduction that yes, we will speak about the objective part of things, but the subjective to me is very very interesting and juicy part of the discussion, because you get perspectives such as that brother Spiwe has just shared with us. And if it were up to me, host, this would go on the whole night, but I will not. I will not bring a different meaning to the space tonight, especially the meaning of time. So let me just cut it there and say, Spiwe, you okay on the issue of of uh, ascribing or of there being no meaning to life, coupled with our ascribing meaning to life. Uh, I get a sense that, okay, I'm trying to understand what drives you, like what motivates you, what, feeds your interest. Do you have anything that, like, gives, Prince Tyler talked about joy, but something that in life gives you a sense of being worth it, you know? Do you have anything that drives you, motivates you, inspires you, whatever the whatever the word may, whatever the case may be?
The simple answer to that is no. Um, but if you want elaboration, I think all these things that you are mentioning, I think there is an emphasis on you, the individual, when you are saying what drives you, what inspires you,
No, no,
what.
the emphasis is on you. Like I want to, you know, I want to know what are like your interests, things that color your day or that brighten your day. Just nje. Doesn't have to be deep or whatever that comes to mind.
Yeah, no, I was still going on. Maybe I'm taking too long, but I'm saying that so all those things depend on the individual. So that is why I was emphasizing that what drives you. But I'm aware that you are the fingers are pointing at me in this instance when you are saying what drives you, what gives you meaning, what inspires you, and all of that. Yeah. Um, the the issue here is that I don't have an exaggerated sense of the individual, and I think that's where we I don't want to say that's where we get it wrong. I'm losing
No,
words
you
here,
can say it. You
but
can say it. Deliver it.
because I
Deliver
don't.
it as freely as you want to.
Yeah. No, I don't want it to be as if it's something that you guys need to cross over into. Um, since I've already said that there is no meaning, but so there is no meaning because there is no exaggerated sense of the self in that way. Um, so the meaning or things that I need to do, or like things that I need to do in like tomorrow, or things that I need to do when I wake up, and all of that. Those things are there. They do come into mind, but the importance is not as such that you would say these are what gives my life purpose. I do understand that whatever I plan now can change in the last minute or so, and because I don't have that attachment, I don't really feel hard done when that happens. I continue with whatever that I have to do in that instance. Yeah,
Okay,
so
okay.
I
Just
think that that
sorry to interrupt you. But I think you've just struck an important chord. Um, because I'm seeing a pattern here. You mentioned the issue of an exaggerated sense of self, coupled with what you're now referring to as an attachment. And I think that was also there in your submission in terms of the changing nature of purpose and meaning. So it sounds to me like um, it's important to you to not be attached to anything because of the changing nature of things. So that detachment.
Not necessarily, but I can make that as one of those examples. But there's no exaggerated sense even on that to say I'm doing this because things are changing. It's not necessarily, but it's easy for me to make an example of that. To say I think. I do hold the same view as nihilist when he says life is progressive. That progressive nature of life could could also include the unpredictability of things that happen as well. So because of all of those things, I don't really have something that I say this one drives me, but I do plan to say, okay, this is what I want to do, and I do that if time permits. If it doesn't, then I don't cry about it. I find something else. Then life goes. But yeah, you can ask other questions as well. Hey, what happened? Did my mic? What's going on here?
No,
Oh,
the fault is all mine. Can you hear me?
clear.
Yeah, I'd muted myself by mistake. I was saying that I think let me just for now park it at asking if there's anything that when it doesn't happen, uh, um, that that when it doesn't happen, sort of disappoints you in any profound way, in terms of in terms of your expectations or about in terms of your expectations, not necessarily on a specific thing, but let's say for how life or your perspective on life in general. I don't know if I'm clear, but I guess my question is hinting at uh those things that make you sort of pause and go, oh, this is something that I didn't expect, or something that challenges your perspective in life. Is there anything that you not toss and turn, but that you are trying to figure out that bothers you? Let me say that.
Maybe let me go with challenging your perspective because that one is easy. The answer is no. I don't hold perspective just as a meaning, since I don't have all these things. By the way, are attached to the exaggerated sense of self. Uh, that's the key here. And now, since I don't necessarily have that much of that, it's things like meaning, perspective, um, drive, all of that.
So you don't have any particular perspective on anything. It just depends on the moment. Um, what might happen, or the spur of the moment kind of thing. You just take in things. You like an open vessel, just take in things as they come and as they happen in the moment.
Yeah, but maybe you can pause that and say, don't we all do that? Um, Yeah, but I think because this was the last question of yours, I think we can go back to factory settings. And I like hearing you guys arguing about relativity and objectivity. Um, it's just that for me, it's the same thing. All of them don't exist. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, guys. I'm awake. I couldn't resist. Sorry, guys. Sorry. No.
You're right, shoes.
Sorry. No, I really wanted to, in the very
Okay, wait.
beginning.
Bongs, who was snoring? You or Rabbi Jules?
No, it was
Rabbi
me.
Jules is South African. I've been telling you guys you have to investigate. Rabbi Jules is South African. He's showing all the signs.
Yeah, no, that was me. I was, Mom. Sorry, Mapule. I was trying to joke at everybody.
Bible hot talk is not good for you, Rabbi.
Inabukweja
They are
Mantasha
changing you, these
Lentwana.
people.
Yeah,
They are changing you, these people.
I don't make a good comedian. You're correct. Let me get back to what it was mentioned early by Coquetzo, and because he asked and he says and I think it's getting late enough, so I really want to tackle that situation, and this is what we need to ask ourselves: if life has no meaning, and we think that like I was saying, that's why I put that title, nihilism. That's how you pronounce it. I wanted to say nihilism because we have nihihi here, but no, nihilism. It just means that we're just here by chance. We think about evolution. We think about other aspects. I think that's a very dangerous belief system if we're here for nothing. Because Coquetzo earlier, and as a co-host, mentioned something that was very tragic. Tragic. We need to recognize something that's. It seems like in every other decade, as long as we get, in the 21st century, and as life goes on, it's becoming of a happening that's coming too often. And we're talking about suicides. Now, we need to tackle that situation. And this is perhaps the focus that maybe I hope it doesn't bring it to a second discussion and next week. But we need to tackle that understanding because if there is no creator of all things, and that creator of all things is not very good or ultimate good, and we are created in God's image. Now I'm following, obviously, just like Lunga and everyone, and like Amos mom and like Goldberry and Kuketso. I believe in that ultimate God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I also always try to bring a Hebraic perspective. It is because the Word of God, when you read it from Genesis all the way to Revelation, it is very dialectical. It's two opposing. It even seems like you read one scripture and it seems to go after another scripture. It's very dialectical. It's holding two opinions or two ideas hold together in constant tension, but it's still the Word of God. And we need to keep asking those questions why. So if atheism or we think evolution, if that's the answer, we take Gnosticism. If we think about these or being agnostic or just believing in ideas, but you don't know why, if there's no purpose to your life, well, no wonder maybe the suicide rates will even get even worse. And look at the shambles of this world in today in 2024. It seems to be getting worse. You can see the news footage. Well, maybe not the news footage because they're probably blocking them out. But you look at the situation in parts of Ireland, or look at any other situation that's going on in Nigeria. When you look at these situations, if we further divert from the only God that truly exists, and it is the God of the scriptures, it is the God of Abraham, and we need that level of faith and faithfulness. So I wanted to maybe guide the question towards, and I don't know if I answered your question, Coquetzo, but if we don't solidify in a belief that it is the only hope, and we think the right answer is hopelessness and nihilism. There's no purpose for us here. What's the point of me living the next day? I can't get a job. The society is going to shambles. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to end it all. You see, this is what's very dangerous. We need to bring that fabric of believing that we are created in God's image to reflect that essence and character in God. That's what's important. And if we hold on to that, even though we can't answer all the questions why we believe in this one and only God, even though we can't answer all the questions, if only we would follow that God. And it's true. Some things were mentioned by Tyler and I think Safiwe. I'm not sure if somebody else mentioned. We need to be careful we don't form God in our own image. We make up a God that we want to accept. We want to decide what's right and wrong. When we do that, we have the Crusades, which happened centuries upon centuries ago. You remember those Crusades? Under the Catholic or whatever the Christus, and they would kill and cause mayhem. They weren't following God. They were following an imaginary God that they created in their own mind. But if we're careful with the scriptures and we understand the writings from Genesis all the way to Revelation and follow that one and only God, not try and let God conform us, not form God in our own minds, perhaps we have a chance. And we'll not have all the answers. But I wanted to focus on that, Keketso. So I really wanted to be my submission, Keketso or Goldberry or whoever else. Have I answered that question in some manner or in some way? I rest my, I give the mic up.
Rabbi Jules. Rabbi Jules, I would say to you, whenever you get a chance, sleep, 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 snore, 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 and then get to the mic, because whenever you do that, you seem to cook better. I mean, you always cook, but when you sleep, 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 snore, 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 you cook better. Thank you very much, Rabbi Jules. Thanks for cooking there. That was beautifully done, man. Thank you very much. That was prettily done indeed. All right, you are saying that meaning assumes the creator God. It assumes that there is a creator God, and you are saying personally you believe in this creator God who is the supreme God, because in this conversation you like to look at it from God's point of view, and of course you want to add the Hebraic accent into this matter because you think it is vital, because the only true God that you know personally, you is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Therefore, you are holding that view and you want to look at this matter from that point of view. And you wish that people could also look at this matter from that point of view. Why? Because you're saying if there's no purpose in life, then there'll be chaos in life. If we can't see things from God's point of view, it means that there's no purpose in life. If there's no purpose in life, then there'll be chaos in life. We need faith and faithfulness to make meaning in life. I guess, faith is our part, faithfulness is God's part. Still holding that line of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob into the picture. And you're saying that if we don't have that, if we don't have faith, we don't have faithfulness, then we can't make meaning in life. We need what's the point of living if there's no meaning? If we can't make meaning in life, then what's the point of living then? And of course, you added issues of that. There's only chaos awaiting us without purpose, without meaning. There's only chaos that is awaiting us. So we can't decide really what's right and wrong. We can't decide meaning as well, which means that basically you are looking at this matter completely from an objective point of view, from a God point of view, and that made Prince Tyler to raise up his hand immediately, and Mr. Spiwe to lift up his hand, because I think they are not happy with this narrative of yours, Rabbi Jules, of looking at this matter from an objective perspective or point of view. So I will give them an opportunity and let's hear what they gotta say on this matter. So I'm not going to ask you a question. I think these guys, they will do justice. This wonderful, amazing, awesome gentleman here. Let's begin with Prince Tyler. Prince Tyler, your hand is up. Rabbi Jules is right next to you. Anything that you want to say to Rabbi Jules?
Yeah. Before I get to the comment that was said by Mr. Jules right here, I want to quickly address the comment in regards to the sun, right? Because I think the definition was that there was like a difference between meaning and purpose. And I guess the insinuation is that the sun itself basically have a purpose. What if I were to say that the main reason why we think that the sun has a purpose is because of a mindset? And the main reason it has a purpose is because humans ourselves have that mindset. So, premise one, without a mindset, there is no purpose towards the sun. Premise two, humans are capable of thinking stuff with our mindset. Premise three, therefore, with our mindset, we give the sun purpose because we think about the action of the sun. So we ourselves are making the sun have purpose by using our minds right there. But the second thing, and it's directly towards the comments that was done directly towards Jules, is that of course without God, there's going to be like a sense of nihilism. And obviously, I don't think that the vast majority of non-believers, at least the ones in my circles, they consider themselves to be nihilists. And I think, sure, there might be some that might be nihilists, but it's like, I guess, the minority of people who are non-believers. But I want to further state that when it comes down to the notion of happiness, could it be entirely possible that some religious doctrine can also contribute to people also being unhappy too? Let's take, for example, for the case of the suicide rates for, I guess, the transgender community, right? I would say that unfortunately, many individuals who are transgender suffer directly from suicides based upon the data that I've gathered and researched about. Could it be entirely possible that maybe one major factor on why they commit suicide might be directly from the doctrine and the teaching of that particular denomination that can also lead them directly towards suicide? When it comes down to the academic of men, for example, women are outperforming men in comparison to, like, education. For example, colleges are much fuller for women in comparison to men. Could it be entirely possible that the main reason why men are being driven to suicide is outside factors, like, for example, hypocrisy in terms of the law and the unequal treatment of the law that leaves men directly from suicide? So I don't think it's not necessarily just because somebody does not believe, therefore they're gonna have a life without no kind of meaning. I think it's much more complicated in terms of the political social dynamic that we're also talking about, in terms of the influence of religion in society, in terms of the politics of society as well, that can also lead to those kind of factors that you were bringing up.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I won't trade him for another black friend, because black friends are rare, as you should be aware. He smiles like Richard Pryor, so just sit and stare. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.